Hey guys, we'll talk about ICCM. I'll show you my chart. Is that my chart? Is that my chart? No, no, wait. There we go. Here's my chart. This chart's gonna seem really ridiculous. Like, why did I short down here and full cover down here? Seems, seems, you know, this is really one of those trades where the beauty of Bookmap really shows you what's happening on this play. Um, you can really see the manipulation, and you can see why. I was talking to a fellow trader who's a good friend of mine, and he primarily longs, but he asked me, he's like, "Hey, Jason, I noticed you don't really talk about like gapping statistics and fade percentages, and a lot of shorts are very like statistical based. They're all about the stats of fades." And I used to track that stuff a lot, and I always found a lot of that data to be misleading, right? I'm sure if you're really smart about it, there's ways to go about it where you can extract a bunch of edge, and also data can give you a lot of conviction in how long to hold stocks, and not cover too early, or wait for very specific criteria to be met before trading. And that's fine. I actually don't really want to knock statistics, but I think this is a good example of how what really matters in the end is the order book and liquidity, right? What really matters is who's moving the stocks and how stocks move in the market. And the stocks move in the market because buyers come in at certain prices and sellers come in at certain prices, and if there's an imbalance of buyers and sellers, it'll move the stock. It'll simply move the stock, and no statistic will ever account for the order book and liquidity, right? And it's the reason I keep bringing up Bookmap in all my videos is because it really shows you, especially in trades like this, where I can extract. I shorted high 130s, covered here, full covered the rest here, and then took a little scalp that I put on break even over here on this little reclaim. And then yeah, so we'll go over this trade and we'll see what the Bookmap reads were. So ICCM, I saw this pop in the pre-market. This thing's been heavily manipulated before. The first thing I noticed about this stock, if we open up ICCM, we zoom out and go back to the pre-market, I noticed the order book is super thick, and you get these on these like sub $2 names a lot, where there seems to be like 5, 10, 15, 20,000 shares at like every single penny level, and the book becomes really, really, really difficult to read. So I saw this pop in the pre-market, and again, if I'm taking a short in the pre-market, on a quick pre-market pop or something like that, I want to see aggressive pushes, right, where there's no bidders, and I want to see asks that I can risk off of, right? There has to be your ask, especially new asks that I can, use as my risk, and I want to see an empty book to the downside, right? And I'm looking at ICCM, and I'm just like, man, dude, there's just like, if we look at these numbers, like 10,000, 17,000, 14,000, I just see all these like relatively thick orders, and it's the same thing to the upside. It's like 24,000, 25,000. I'm like, man, this book is so thick. I was like, this is a thick book. Whereas, if you go to my HNRA video, where I longed at 250 and went up to 340s, that book was empty. To the upside was empty. It was like 100 shares at every penny level, and then somebody slaps 20,000 shares and the thing goes up 15%. You know what I mean? That type of thing. So this is a little different. So it's like, yeah, you get a high day clear out here and it dumps, but I'm like, I see this dump and I just see these like, there's all these like 10,000, 15,000, 20,000 share bidders, and they're selling into them. But I was like, man, like, I don't want to chase down here because, we learned that in strong markets, a lot of times these high day quick dumps can like soak and come back up because there's so much empty space, the whole empty space thing, where there's like tons of empty space up here. So it's like I didn't want to like chase. There's like you learn very fast in manipulated stuff not to chase big dump candles. Either you shorted up here or you didn't, right? That's pretty much how it works, in my opinion. So I saw all these bidders, and I just had I really had no idea what to think about it. And then something real interesting happened, and I don't know why I didn't hit my long buttons here. So it's like hanging out under VWAP, So we go here. This thing was hanging out under VWAP, bouncing off the 1 minute 200, right, for like half an hour on like actually not bad volume. This was doing like 1 million, 1 million, 1 million. Like it wasn't like, really wasn't like super crazy weak volume, but the price action looked unimpressive. I was like, well, I'm definitely not shorting under VWAP, I'll tell you that. But then somebody came in at 10 a.m. and started, if you look at this, all of these lines, this one, this one, this one, this one, this one, these are all 60,000 share, 75,000 share bids at every penny level, every single one. And a few guys in my Discord room, information down below, by the way, how to join it, were long this. They just longed right into the 114s, 115s, 113s. They were long in here, and they were just risking these bids. And look what they got. They got a fat squeeze. Now, this is an important lesson. Just because there's big bids at the bottom doesn't mean some crazy high day squeeze will happen. What's the most important thing about when big bidders show up at the bottom is A, do they get pulled, or do they hold? In this case, they're holding. They're not pulling these bids, so they're holding. Number one. Number two, when the squeeze does, because you see there's an empty book. There's some orders at 130 and there's some orders at 140, right? Okay, when it squeezes to these orders, are there bidders following this move up, right? And in the larger context of the stock, we see that 147's high day here, and there's all these lower highs. So all these shorts who chase this move have averages. So this becomes an interesting candidate for a backside clear out short and a potential long trap, or longs chase the move expecting high day to get broken. But they pull the plug on them, right? So I'm like, okay, like I always think the closer a stock gets to high day, the better the short is. I see the big bidders. We get this aggressive move. And what do we see? We see no bids. There's no bids following this up. There's zero bids. Blasts right through 130. But really, 140 was the main level I was looking at. I'm like, that's way closer to high day. The risk reward becomes a lot better. I don't want to just short into 130. It doesn't even matter because it just blasted through 130. But the whole time I'm like, there's no bids following this up. I see the pullback. I see the second push. And then I see it not even touch 139, and I insta-shorted this. I just insta-shorted. I was just pretty much banking that this 100,000 share ask at 140 wasn't going to get broken. And that this was essentially this little like retail pullback and chase right here. They were going to pull the plug on them. I had a big ass to risk off of. I shorted right into the high 130s. And I got instant confirmation. But here's the thing about what I mean about like how short statistics won't show you stuff like this. They pulled it back down, and then I saw all the bidders still there. They were all still there, and not only that, we started getting more 50, 60,000 share bidders showing up. So I covered more than half. And then I just saw a little ask at VWAP, and I saw these new bidders show up, and I just cover the rest. I'm like, dude, I told my Discord, I was like, I do not want to deal with 8 levels of 70,000 share bidders and have to wait for these, like, are they going to pull these bids? Are they not going to pull these bids? Like, what's the stock doing? Like I'm just going to take the move, 137s to sub VWAP in the 115s. I'll take the 20-cent move. And it took my money. And then the only other trade I had was when it did this, where, again, we got a big aggressive push to high day. It hits 145, and it does the manipulated dump. Here's your 12-cent dump and 10-cent reclaim. And then I knew retail was going to chase this candle. If we go here, that is this green candle. And when retail sees this green candle, they just think it's going to go straight up. Like, if they see a 15-cent dump and a massive green candle to come straight back up, like, remember, guys, that happens because on this dump, the order book is so thin that it's not hard for them to just, like, dump it 15 cents and push it back 12 cents. It's not hard for them to do, but that doesn't mean it's going to go to high day. It doesn't mean it's going to break all these risks. And so once I saw this stall, and you could see, here's all the green candles from people chasing, and there's no. Here's all the green bubbles, and there's no green bubbles here. And I actually just started shorting into the high 130s, and I was just risking these guys. I was like, that's a good little retail chase candle. And then I said to my buddy, I was like, oh, you know what? The only real bidders, like, there's a guy at 130 and there's a guy at 125. And I'm like, I was like, I told him, it's like, I'm going to cover some into the guy at 125 because, hey, I'm zooming out and I'm like, there's still all these bidders down here. Like, these dudes never, and to the end of the day, these guys never left. So I was like, this stock is really heavy, it's thick. It's definitely manipulated, but they're having a hard time breaking high day on this play. I'll take some off and then just put my risk back at break even, and I just got out the rest break even. So, interesting play. That's how you get, the way you short at the top and cover at the bottom, right? Like on my chart, just pure bookmap reads, pure understanding of, backside clear outs, longs chasing the high day, and just covering where the bids are. If you want to know where my profit targets, how am I getting bottom tick covers on a lot of my charts? It's just where the bids are. It's where they are. Just look at the bookmap. Like, there's bids here. Okay, if I'm shorting something, and I'm like, wow, there isn't any bids until, 15, 20% lower, and it fades 15, 20%, and it starts bouncing off those bids, I just cover some, because that's where, the book tells me where support is. I don't have to guess where support is. The book will just tell me where support is. And yeah, and it works more often than it doesn't. So it's a good thing to have. So ICCM, some interesting little trades. Made an okay amount on it, but they were clean trades. That's what I liked about them. They worked very clean, and I like that. So yep, ICCM pretty crazy. So yeah, weird, crazy strong day. So a lot of good bookmap stuff on this one. So yeah, you guys have a good one. Information down below about the Discord.